My name's Johnny Smoke. I am here with Midlands Metalheads Radio. We are covering HRH Prog, episode 7, I believe, in North Wales at Pwllheli. And I am joined here in our exclusive, very luxurious caravan, which, if you jiggle about a bit, you can feel it move, which really assures you that we are definitely in an old caravan. And I'm speaking to Kindred Spirit, who are playing later on this evening.
Indeed.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. Perhaps the first thing we ought to do is, for the benefit of our listeners and viewers, because we've got the camera rolling as well, do you want to say who you are and what you do in the band?
Should we start again?
Yeah. So I'm Elaine. I play drums.
I'm Mike. I'm the other half of the rhythm section. I'm bass.
I'm Elaine. I'm the lead singer and rhythm guitarist, and I write the songs mainly.
Yeah, I'm Catherine. I play the flute and saxophone, and I sing backing vocals.
Right, so we've got quite a mix of instruments in there. Can you
One
tell us
more?
perhaps?
One more.
One more.
Right, that's the problem with having
My
a blind
job-
guy doing the interview.
My job is
I
not
apologise to
just to drink tea, although it is very good tea. You're right.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm Martin, and as people say very often, and it's not funny anymore, I'm on the fiddle.
Oh.
Sorry, I laughed.
Tish.
You said it's not funny anymore. But I do
You
have
still
a
got
chuckle.
one person laughing. That's enough.
Yeah. And a little potted history of the band then. When you came into being in your current form.
Okay, so I started solo in the early 90s, and then I found a violin player. We were duo for a while, and then it's kind of coalesced since then with various changes of musician into what we are now. And yeah, so we mainly play my songs, and they're quite prog because of the nature of the songs and the way we have the violin and the flute and sax weaving together and doing dueling, and the songs are quite long.
That always helps. That helps to make it prog.
Theme here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a handy rule of thumb, which is if we're coming out of an instrumental section, there's almost certainly another verse, if
Yeah.
not two.
Yeah, and another chorus to go with it too.
So as main songwriter, what is your musical background? What kind of music did you grow up with, and how did that develop?
It's quite eclectic. I like quite a lot of folk music as well as prog bands like Yes, and I like I like all kinds of things. It's not one thing in particular. I might just like, something that I can't even describe what genre it is. Just if I like it, then that's fine.
But as I say, you started off as a solo artist, but perhaps got this writing style that reflected your taste. You were just waiting for the prog band to form around you, perhaps.
I guess it was a natural. I didn't even realise it was really a prog band until someone pointed out that they thought we would go
The songs are
down
more than
well.
5 minutes, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about the rest of you? Just briefly, is prog something that you are into musically?
Well,
thank you. Left to right.
You're left to right, that is. It's on my radar. I wouldn't say it's a sort of core aspect of what I listen to. That said, I mean, once we've moved on from Yes, I listen to and play a lot of classical and jazz. There's a fair amount of rock going through my ears. It's not necessarily what's called prog, but I think in that broader sense of pushing boundaries. So stuff like the guitar era Radiohead and other bands that are doing unconventional structures, unconventional sounds. I think, stuff that's experimenting is interesting for me, whether or not it comes under a prog label in most people's eyes.
Yeah, I've got an eclectic mix of things. I grew up as trained classically on the flute, and had come across a variety of different things. And then I took to the saxophone when I was at uni and really got into jazz bands and things. But there are some really good flautists out there. Obviously, you've got to mention Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull because that's another big person there. But then you've got the latest Norda Mullen, who's in Moody Blues at the moment. But then there are the classically trained flautists like Ian Clark, who does a lot of extended techniques and really pushes the boundaries on the flute, which is great. but I take inspiration from lots of different places, and I teach music as well, so I'm sort of well versed in so many different types of music. It can't help but influence you, really.
Lucky students.
Okay, so I'm a child of the 60s. Now, when I started listening to music, it was the early 70s, really. And ELP and Genesis in particular were sort of floating my boat. But strangely, or maybe not strangely, punk really worked for me as well. The new wave British heavy metal really worked for me. So my main instrumentation influences, I guess, are probably people like Jean-Jacques Burnel from Stranglers and John Entwistle from The Who, neither of whom you would say are particularly proggy, but both of whom can certainly play the arse off their instruments, and that's one of the that's one of the sort of hallmarks of prog. I think you've got to know your instruments to be able to sort of do the job properly.
And then from a drumming perspective, certainly I grew up with bands like Genesis again, and mentioned. Love bands like obviously Pendragon that were on a couple of nights ago, all the way through to some heavier stuff, including bands like sort of Dream Theater, Enchant, Spock's Beard, Big Train. So there's a lot of different styles, but then I'm also there's a lot of, sort of jazz fusion that I really like as well. So there's a lot of bands there, Chick Corea, for example, and so on, that produce some fantastic sound.
Well, it strikes me that's a thorough melting pot, and it makes for some interesting outcomes. And I mean, you're saying that you never really consider yourself prog until somebody pointed out to you. That's been a running theme in some of the younger bands that we've been interviewing, or the bands that have formed more recently. And I say, well, what is prog? Actually, it's just a shortening of the word progressive. So in terms of like you take an idea and you progress it and you move forward, and so there's going to be a lot of bands out there that are prog.
I think that's one of the
consider, perhaps not even really that aware of what traditionally is made up.
I think for us as well, it's having as lead instruments the violin and the saxophone stroke flute, rather than the traditional guitar or keyboards. That for us is where we're pushing a particular boundary, if you want to call it that. That's what makes it very interesting, certainly from my perspective.
Yeah, and I have to admit, I hold my hands up. I'm a prog newbie in the traditional sense. So I'm assistant prog master, got a master who's standing there behind the cameras. But the one thing that has struck that chord is that the traditional prog audience, if you like, is very open to purely for that reason. That they're open to, well, that's not the instrument that we usually hear, but we're all ears. We'll give it a go. We really like that.
Yeah.
So there doesn't seem to be any sort of preconceived. You're not prog enough for us.
The other thing though is that there was a kind of template in the 1970s where Yes and Camel and Genesis, ELP not quite so much. A kind of prog was very long songs, tended to be well orchestrated, tended to be talking about big ponderous themes, and that was progressive. Well, if you stay there, you're not progressing anymore.
So we came up with a new genre, which is reg rather than prog, because it's progressive rather than progressive. But we didn't think a reg festival would go down very well. So maybe we're going to see a HRH reg.
So there are a few of the old bands. I guess King Crimson are probably the best example of a band that really do keep crunching forward. And you may not like the noise that they make, but it's definitely not like what's gone before. They always seem to be pushing. There's a bit of that going on with us as well.
I think one of the things that's characteristic about us as a band is, the core writing is Elaine's, and it does tend to mostly feed off Elaine's vision. But in rehearsal, we do a lot of just bringing our own kind of cards to the table, if you like.
Yeah, it's a very collaborative process, isn't it?
We
feed in and feed off a lot of each other's ideas, which is really exciting as well. It's great that we all are able to have our own input and we think about different ways it can go. And sometimes we come up with completely different rhythms or even completely different feels for it. And it's great, and we're always thinking about how we can experiment with our sound. We use folk bits of jigs and reels sometimes, and we kind of intertwine those with rockier numbers that we do, and then some of them are sort of much happier numbers, but then we sort of get
Few
back
and
to
far
our
between.
core. Yeah, we get back to our core.
Get back to the
like
doom.
harder rock and the doom and gloom. But hopefully putting out some positive messages at the same time. So
Yeah, and I think this ties into that sort of fusion type thing that actually one way of finding something new, you don't have to necessarily go, oh, it needs to be weirder than that and more whatever than that. You can just try smashing different things into each other, and if you find a way that they fit together, then you've got something new, something different that progresses without necessarily becoming sort of incomprehensible.
yeah,
It sounds like the band process means that okay, the songs may come from a single starting point, but by the time that you're playing them live, there's an ownership
Yeah.
across
Absolutely.
all of the members of the band. Now, obviously, we're talking about the live performance which they're playing later on this evening. For people who want to go out and actually listen to it and purchase the music, where are you in terms of release of music from physical format? What have we got?
Well, we have 2 main CDs at the moment, which is the most recent one is the Kindred, the Phoenix Rising, and the one before that's the Metamorphosis album. There's a very early one that's still available. There's some that have become unavailable on physical format now
Very
because
collectible.
they sold out.
Yeah. Elaine's not getting any more duplicated because they took up too much room in her house.
Yeah, so they sold.
So how do people get them,
They
Elaine?
can buy the CDs.
Yes, they can buy the CDs from our. There's various sources where they can buy them, but you can buy them directly from our website, which is it's basically www.kindredspiritband.co.uk. So that's you just hit a button and purchase it.
presto.
there.
As if by
Yeah.
magic, your money has left.
Yeah.
It's great. We
What
love
about
it.
where
So
else
the
they can
Phoenix
listen to
Rising
us?
being the latest one. When did that come out?
The latest one, it's 2015, I think, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
first released. Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on
So-
new material as well at the moment. So
Yeah.
we've got the first half of that CD done,
Yeah.
and it's really exciting,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
exciting. Some great new numbers on there.
We're going to play some.
And we
tonight.
are, yeah. We've got Red Rose that's on there. That's been-
Apocalyptic number.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and some
So-
stuff new tonight that I think will probably go on the other half of that album that we haven't recorded
Yes,
yet.
yeah.
The Alchemist,
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
So would it be a sort of a band methodology to take some of the songs out on the road and see how they feel and
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
tends to be how
Gestate.
it works.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
we don't record them first and then road test them. It's very much the other way around. They get rehearsed, they get road tested, and then they get recorded. It's that,
Yeah.
that way
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
And that means, I guess, that the recorded versions, the core of them is still how we would play them live. They might be stretched out, overdubs. I arranged a couple of string sections for this album, which I think is a new
Yeah.
departure. But the core of it is still what it's like playing them as a live band. So I think you have a sort of immediacy and yeah, just because we're very at home with them, they're not new to us when we're recording.
There's also a
That's
couple
the
of
basis
albums
of the band.
that you can't get physically anymore, but you can get them on Spotify.
Such as
the Watchers album and In the Doghouse.
I know
Yeah.
you'll be only a whopping 0.001.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nah, it's not that much.
Right.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you want to find us on Spotify, last thing before you go to bed at night, put one of those albums on repeat, then mute your computer speakers and leave it there till morning.
Yeah, we might earn 10 pence.
That might get us a
Yeah.
cup of tea every couple of
Aw.
months.
Yes. But otherwise, go for the Phoenix Rising one. That's the most recent one.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be good.
And in terms of, you say about half complete on the new one?
We've
Yeah.
recorded about half the tracks.
Yeah, we've got
Some
half
more are
completely.
written and there, so it's all
Yeah.
in progress. We'll need to
Yeah.
go back into the studio
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
about another 4 or 5 tracks or so.
Yeah, I need to
Yeah.
write a couple more. So
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah,
say,
get on with it.
there's a couple more that exist, and some more in the pipeline. Been
Yeah.
doing one about Viking raids and Anglo-Saxon
Yeah, that's right.
England. That's,
Yeah, we're still working on that one.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's 90% there, isn't it?
I think so.
yeah. It all depends whether we decide to keep my 7/8/5/8 middle 8 section.
Yes.
Right. See, we are a prog band, really.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I think on one of them I'm playing like 2 saxophones and a flute part and I'm singing. So it'll be interesting doing that one live.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it all goes.
Yeah, that does sound like quite a big. So are we expecting a release next year? Or?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, you heard it here first.
Yeah.
No, unless you told anybody else about that.
No,
Nope.
you are the first.
We can wait with trepidation for that. In terms of subject matter, I mean, you hinted at a song about Viking.
Yeah.
Did you say? I mean, what is it generally a sort of a folky nature in terms of the way you approach lyric writing, or do you cover a range of subjects?
It's a range of subjects. It just tends to be about things that I'm interested in, you know, and a lot of the things that I'm interested in keep coming back to the big question of why we're here and where we're going and what it's all about. And I do try to write about other things, and some of them are like historical things, which I'm particularly interested in at the moment. I like sort of going to cities that have a lot of history and investigating where the people that used to live there and stories around that. So I'm finding that really enjoyable at the moment. But there are a lot of songs that I've written in the last few albums that deal with that sort of why are we here kind of question.
Mystery.
And mystery.
Ecological-
Inside songs.
Ecological doom
Yeah,
is up there.
ecological. Yeah, I've got a few ecological songs. You know, with where it looks like we're going, and it's not pretty.
No, definitely.
Yeah, we're going to do one of those tonight, aren't we? The Green Man.
Yeah, I do like that one.
Yeah,
Start
there's
listening to the lyrics of this.
So how active a gigging band are you?
we would like to be, you know, more active. In fact, wouldn't we? So
Yes.
it just depends, you know, how many gigs we can get. We do the gigs that we can
Take the
get.
opportunities that you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
one of the issues is that live music is being really heavily squeezed in pubs at the moment. We don't
Yeah.
play for free because, you know, at least half the band are professional musicians. So there are gigs to be had if you want to play for free, but we don't really want to pay for free. We want to actually get
Yeah.
recognised for the commitment and the effort that we put into it.
Yeah.
And that means, unfortunately, because the market is shrinking, getting gigs can be tricky. There are a few pubs that love us, and we
Yeah.
will generally play there a couple of times a year.
The kind of music venue type
Yeah.
pubs, you know.
But we play at theatres, we play in, you know, small arts venues and things, we play at festivals and things, so we've done a few, you know, we did a New Day festival a couple of years ago, and we've done some of the sort of beer festivals, food festivals, and lots of other sort of things in between, so
Yeah.
we're looking to sort of move onwards and upwards in that sense.
We're
here today,
Yeah.
so
We
you know,
had a slight problem with placing ourselves. You know how people like to put you in boxes, and we are. The rock world tend to think of us as folky, you know, because of our instruments and that, and the folk world think we're too electric. So it's very difficult to get gigs in those worlds.
but at the same time, I think everyone who's come across us has just said, "Oh my gosh, I love your music. It's you know, it's so good, and you should be getting out there so much more." I mean, you might think I'm just saying that
No,
because
it's
we're
true.
being interviewed, but
Honestly.
they do. They always come back saying how much they've loved the band and they want to hear us again, and that's why we end up getting booked again at so many different places. So it's just a case of having the people who are the right people just go, "Yeah, we want you. Let's get you out there."
I think what you were saying about open ears really is a lot of this. Actually, when we get as far as people's ears, they tend to wake up and go, "Oh yeah, no, I like what I'm hearing." But if people are sort of assessing on paper, going, "Do I think I'll book these?" that can be slightly more of a fight. You know, I mean, we probably still, as a full band gig, what, once a month-ish on
Yes,
average?
once
Once,
Yeah.
once,
More
once
in
or twice a month, I think.
more in summer, less in winter. But you know, it's
Well, we've
most
got
people's
a
life,
number
isn't
of
it?
gigs coming up in December, haven't we? So we've got
Yep.
one at the Ottershaw Club.
I've got three.
That's on the 1st, isn't it? We've got another one at the Bellevue in High Wycombe, and that's on the 8th.
Yeah.
You know, so we've got gigs and things coming up. We've got other things in the pipeline. So
So you've arrived at the sound that you're doing. It sounds like you're doing that with some conviction and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know what you are. And,
Some of you guys know venues up in the Midlands who would be interested in having us. We would consider coming this far.
Well, there you go.
Did venture up to the Robin in Bilston early this year.
Yes,
Oh,
where you jumped off the
that's where we're
stage.
in our
Yeah.
local patch, and have an audience that's very receptive to that style of music as well. So I think we go down quite well there.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have the entirety of Kindred Spirit on our couch and spilling over the edges and whatnot. Thank you for lending us your time, and very much good luck with your set later on tonight.
Thank you
very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.